I want to now bring up our next presenters, which is who are Lisa Eaton and Ricardo Gomez-Insausti of Numeris, which is the Joint Industry Committee in Canada for TV and radio ratings. They're going to talk to us a little bit about how they handle cross-media measurement and some very interesting initiatives that they're taking in combining return path data with panel TV measurement. So come on up.
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon. Come on up. It's very exciting to be here today. We'll give you a little bit of insight into what's going on in Canada. But I thought for table stakes, I would introduce you to Canada a little bit and talk a little bit about who we are. So we are a population of 35 million, 0.2, officially it just came out. 2 official languages, English and French. We have 6 time zones, so do you, but ours are on the East Coast, yours are Alaska and Hawaii, we have Newfoundland. And 2 out of 3 Canadians live within 100 kilometers of the US border, which actually may make Donald Trump nervous, but it's a fact. Also, 70% of our population live in urban areas. So some people might think Canada is so vast and broad country that it would be spread out, but no, indeed, most of it is moving into the urban centers. And in fact, the StatsCan data that just came out 2 weeks ago said that this is a very big trend that is occurring, the urbanization of Canada. So people are moving away from the rural areas into the city centers. Just on big numbers, 34.4 million watch TV each week, 27.4 listen to radio. We watch the same TV shows. This is last fall, adults 25 to 54, 3 or more episodes. Big Bang Theory, #1, has been for quite a while. But we also love big boxcar shows like Oscars, Super Bowl, etc. We both have new leaders. I cannot let this pass. I was going to say one of these things is not like the other, but I have a better one because this week they met for the first time, which was very exciting, I'm sure, for both of them. Maybe one more than the other. Exactly. So as Canadians, we're like, okay, well, that went pretty well. But then the next day, Sean Spicer got up and in the press briefing referred to our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, as Joe Trudeau. So I feel like we're right back where we started. But anyway, yeah, you can all move up there. So who is Numeris? We are the industry's rating service. We are, okay, wrap your heads around this, a tripartite not-for-profit cooperative. So tripartite means agency advertisers, radio broadcasters, TV broadcasters. So our board, all our committee structures are made up of these 3 component pieces. So you always have the buy and sell side at the table when we're making decisions to create solutions for the industry. We have over 1,250 members and 150 licensees. Licensees are people that aren't allowed to vote in our membership structure, but they do receive the data and create products from it. We're an unusual company. Most of the JICs in Europe, Joint Industry Committees, actually are very small in scale. They maybe have 10 people, and those 10 people solicit, and on behalf of the industry, they engage a vendor to do all the work for them. At Numeris, we actually do the work in many cases. So we have over 250 full-time employees and over 500 part-time employees as well. We actually have 3 call centers across the country. We actually do the recruitment, the panel management, and all of those things. We are the source for audio and video measurement in Canada. We're one of the top 10 largest market research firms. We've been around for a long time. So radio measurement began in 1944 and TV in 1952. The really interesting thing, as Meryl Streep said at the Golden Globes, Canadians are very nice. And under that guise, we actually work with everybody. So we have a joint venture with Nielsen. We license their PPM technology, but we work with Kantar. They do all our back-end processing for our PPM service. And we do truly work with everyone. So broad strokes, the services that we offer to the marketplace, the PPM service, we're measuring the top 6 markets for both radio and TV. It's a common panel. So Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and Montreal's interesting because we have a separate Anglo and Franco panel. We also have a national service for television based on the PPM. In diary markets, we have TV, radio. Radio is really interesting. This fall, we rolled out our online radio diary. So now we give respondents the choice of asking whether they want to fill out a paper diary or an online diary. So really interesting. It created a little hiccup in the market when the data came out because it brought in a whole new suite of respondents that we had never been exposed to via paper, sort of higher profile, better educated, et cetera, and some of the tuning went marginally down. So what are the metrics that we trade on in Canada? This is the PPM currency service, and what we do, we offer daily first-rated reports, overnights plus same day. The currency is traded on is live plus 7-day playback, and it's not commercial audience, it's actually program audience. There are services in the market that provide specific minute commercial tracking, and those, so if anybody wants to evaluate brand campaigns, that data is available, but the actual currency is program-based. We also, because the PPM codes survive for up to 28 days in the linear system, we can measure 8 to 28-day playback. So we do provide that information to the marketplace as well. And we actually separately developed an encoding system to create measure VOD, cable-based VOD, and that's called the on-demand measurement system, and Ricardo's actually going to talk about that in a sec. In radio, same panel again, same households. We are reporting on, we threw it into the market, literally, last January. We started releasing daily radio data. And the only difference between the PPM service here and yours, well, there's many differences, but the key one is we don't report on average quarter-hour audience in our PPM system for radio. We actually report on AMA, as we do in TV. And the currency traded on in Canada is a 13-week average for radio. So single panel, again, many capabilities. We have live radio and TV encoded stations, consumer recorded TV playback. We measure online radio and TV streaming as well for the encoded stations. And in fact, what we've done in radio is we've separately encoded the streams on the radio. So the broadcasters are now getting information that said, here's what the streams are, and here's what the linear over-the-air system ratings generated are as well. We also have mobile streaming for encoded stations. It's device agnostic as long as it can hear the codes. We're picking up the tuning or listening. In-home and out-of-home viewing is being captured. We just sort of take it for granted in Canada. We've had it for a very long time. Video on demand is captured, as I said. And we also released to the industry about 2 years ago a cross-media database where, because it's a common panel, we are able to strip it out and actually look at the impacts as people move throughout their day, what their exposures to TV and radio are. I'm going to pass it over to Ricardo.
Okay. In reality, we're a small country, but very diverse, very fragmented, very difficult to measure. So we have a lot of challenges, but we are able to manage quite a few things. One of them is that our sample frame is based on telephone, and we include landlines and mobiles. In Canada, we have the fortune of being able to call over the dialer using mobile phones, so we don't have a legal limitation to do that. Makes so far cost effective. However, it's challenging because the growth of mobile-only homes is very high. One thing that we moved away from the television household concept in 2009 when we introduced PPM, which is platform agnostic. However, we ask who has access to live television since 2009 until 2016. We noticed over time that where people start consuming television in non-linear fashion, so we needed to update our criteria. And what we did is just be able to have the pool of households that actually tell us we consumed video content or television content, not necessarily in a linear way, and they are included in the panel. So any home that has access to consumption of media is entitled to be in the panel, and that's the way that we're measuring to cover all the aspects of media consumption. We conduct a monthly establishment survey, which is the pool that we use to balance the panel on every 3 weeks. So we work a lot up front. Our idea is actually to have the panel as balanced as possible before any type of weighting of correction at the individual level. We spend a lot of energy and resources in that piece. We also create universe estimates for media technologies that can sometimes is even used by other companies that want us to use the establishment survey data to calibrate their panels. all the other demographics come from Statistics Canada. Again, as Lisa mentioned, we have full control of the panel, full control of the methodology, and our panels have been audited by the MRC standards. So let's go into the video on demand approach. The PPM was able to develop, in collaboration with Nielsen Audio and Kantar Media, we are able to develop the fourth layer of audio code in the PPM to record, to capture the video on demand at the episode level. So we have that information for the last 2 years. There's a lot of work by the broadcaster side to do so, but they start doing it, and at the moment we are working to put together in the software so they can have linear and non-linear information at the episode level. The most interesting things in all the work that we have done is that AMA for dramas has been quite significant. It's the highest, but sitcom is very, very close. The AMA actually ranges in the 5 to 10% at the market level. And even for some special type of programming, it can reach over 10 or 15% additional AMA for certain type of programming. The other thing that we noticed, because this comes from the same panel, the same source, is that between 25 and 40% of the viewers view linear, the same episode, and afterwards they watch with somebody else in the home. Because there is like 78% of people that watch video on demand with somebody else in attendance. Most of the time, they watch 1 up to 3 episodes on demand from the same type of programming. And in this case, we did analysis in fall and spring. In this case, we noticed that in spring was high use of on demand. And during the day of the week, changed a lot depending on what type of programming we are looking at. Most of the viewing in video on demand happened within the last 8 days after the posting. And the typical type of audience has been related to females, 25 to 49, part in the workforce, medium to heavy TV viewers. And most of the time, these homes have children at home. They also have PVR. They have more than one TV set and high-speed internet as characteristics of this type of profile. We did also other tests specifically to measure what happened with commercials in VOD. And the reality is there was no particular negative impact. Since we have the average minute audience for every single minute of the program, we are able to compare the curves for the episode and look at what happens, and the retention is very high. And the same happens when they watch the whole episode with somebody else and they watch again, the retention of the audience is very high. Daily shows, even though we encoded many of them, were not particularly viewed during the video on demand, except for special episodes. The other thing that we're doing is that we went for an RFP to measure video audience that is outside as well of what the panel can capture. So the idea is that by developing a partnership with with a potential partner to measure video audience, to incorporate to the information that we have in the TAM coming from the panel. And we have information how video is consumed, video on demand is consumed, and we expect to connect that with the whole spectrum of other type of video consumption that exists outside the panel. The focus right now initially was long form, but we are also developing a technology that we were able to measure short forms of content as well. And I'm going back to Lisa. This is the return path data projects that we have right now.
So this is the thing that fascinates Jane. So the Canadian government, the regulatory body, it's officially Canadian Radio, Television, Telecommunications Commission, actually embarked on this whole Let's Talk TV process where they were engaging Canadians, regular Canadians, as well as the industry on ways that the system could change or challenges. Basically, one of the decisions they came out with was the words are requiring the industry to form a working group to develop an audience measurement system based on the data from set-top boxes. This group will be tasked with proposing technical standards, privacy protections, and a governance structure, as well as determining how costs will be shared. So this happened in late 2014 that this decision came down. So in 2015, the first, let's say 6 months, it took a while, they assembled a working group, and the working group is made up of broadcasters, cable and IP operators, as well as producers, small content producers. It's quite a varied group. And basically, the group got together and they chose Numeris. It made sense. We are the industry's rating service, so it made sense to work with us. But they chose us to conduct a small-scale test, which is, can you aggregate disparate forms of BDU data? Sorry, I have to say BDU is your equivalent of an MVPD. Okay, so just so we can equate those. So can we get, IP delivered services combined with cable set-top box and come up with a harmonized data set, which then in future could be integrated with Numeris data? So we did the small scale test. We worked with Kantar as our technical partner, and it was successful. So we worked with 3 vendors. There was a lot of challenges along the way. Not everybody's pulling back set-top box data, so you have to get an inventory of who's doing what. But it was a successful test. And then, so we presented their findings to the working group. The data patterns were similar.
Were very similar between what we have at on an hourly basis. The consumption was very similar coming from the return path data from the TAM data.
Exactly.
Very similar pattern.
So right now we're in the phase 2 assessment, and phase 2 is simply working with all the BDUs across the country to do an inventory of who is capable of returning path, providing us with return path data. We're going to create a design spectrum, and we are going to then work with the working group on doing a test against that structure. So we're actually really excited about that. The ultimate goal, obviously, is to integrate it with Numeris data at the end of the day. And that is it. Canada in 15 minutes. Thanks, Jane.